Have you taught inherited traits?
Yes.
Once? Well, this is the way I teach it. This is the way it fits with me. But I did manipulate what the keys just a little bit because it worked better than what the agri-science booklet did, because fifth graders have a hard time, and you will too, because Miss Elizabeth last time she was like, oh my gosh, I'm having a hard time figuring out what this is. I want you to get a parent card original that I recreated, and I'll tell you why once we get to that, and then a plant trait key, and I've redone this one just a little bit differently, so get those where when you get back to your, and you download this from the website and you think, this is not what I saw in that, it is not. It's just a little bit different just because I had to change it for resources and for kids to change it easier for them to figure out what that is, okay? But today we're going to talk about inherited traits. Somebody tell me what inherited traits are.
What you look like.
Yes. But fifth graders would say, they would just look at you most of the time. They wouldn't say, somebody may say, it's something that's passed down because they know the word inherited. And it is. That is basically, it is a trait, which is a characteristic. It is something that is passed down or left to us from a parent or a grandparent or someone that is back in our genealogy of why we look the way we do. It's the reason that Miss Rebecca has brown hair. It's the reason my skin tone is the way, the color it is. What other traits do you see about me? And it's important for you to put it on you and not on them. And I'll tell you mine in just a minute.
Your eye color.
My eye color. That is a trait that is a dominant trait because it's dark brown. What's something else that may be handed down from a parent? Those, your height. Definitely. A lot of times people say, you'll kind of delve into this a little bit better, more, when you're asking questions, you think, what else that you may not can see? And somebody in there will have some kind of health. Yes, what?
Medical.
Yes. What if someone has diabetes? Those are things, health, stroke, heart attack, if that runs in the family, those are traits or characteristics that can be handed down from one generation to the other. Today we're going to focus on plants, though, not just on human beings of why we look the way we do, but we're going to focus on plants. And we're going to talk about something called dominant genes and recessive genes. What does dominant mean?
It's the strongest.
It's strong. That means strong. The ones you see, something that you see in a trait is something that is visible. What's recessive? When we're talking about inherited trait, it's one that is weak, that you don't necessarily see. It is in your genetic makeup. It is in the genetic makeup of our flowers, but it's not something that you see. But it still makes you who you are, and it's still an underlying trait in your genetic makeup. So we're going to talk about dominant traits and recessive traits. And today we're going to focus on our plants. You're going to get a parent card, and you're going to get a key. Now, those of you that have the exact thing. These are cut apart, and it's in orange just because these are on Card Shop, because this is what I pass out in my classroom, but I ask for these two things back. Everything else I'll give them, they can keep. They just have to be mindful of be nice with it, because pipe cleaners can hurt if they're used to stab. Some teachers will shape it back up. But I'm going to give you a key, and I'm going to give you a parent card, and we're going to serve several points today. We're going to be a scientist. So a scientist uses a key or a log to figure out to track their record. And we're going to track what our offspring is going to be. Okay? So you're going to get one of these. I'm going to pass those to Sonia. And I'll pass on this side a parent card. Doesn't matter which card. Every card is different. And you're going to use this to try to figure out what your offspring is going to be. Now, there's somebody very important that his name is Gregor Mendel. Does anybody know who Gregor Mendel was? They're going to be dumbfounded. They're not going to know. Gregor Mendel was a monk from back in the 1800s. He actually was the father of inherited traits. However, it wasn't documented for about 200 years after that, and where we have documentation of how traits are handed from one generation to the other. Okay? And one of the things when we talk about recessive and dominant traits, you'll see you have several colors. Now I'm going to tell you why I changed them out since you have the ones the original. If you look at if you download this Georgia curriculum, the Georgia AgriScience Inherited Traits, those of you that came in late, I gave out 2 different hands-out and the things that I changed from what's on the website. One is the parent cards. 5th graders don't know what magenta is, and that's the color that is on the parent card. It has gold, blue, red, green, silver, and magenta. But magenta is dark pink. It's very difficult to find dark pink glitter. Okay, so I basically just did that same thing in your handout, and it says pink. So there's nothing else, because it's confusing to teach this class anyway. I don't need anything else to make it more confusing to them. And the other thing I changed, in the original Georgia AgriScience curriculum, the key looks like this. And I just made 3 boxes instead of 1 big box, because when we get to this, those of you that have never taught the inherited traits, can be extremely difficult for kids to say, because we're only going to focus on 2 colors at one time, and they're going to have 6 colors playing with them, and we're saying, no, we're looking at this one box. The only 2 colors you're looking at is gold and red. So I just did that to break it up. It just is that one simple thing helps my 5th graders to figure out what the outcome is going to be. So that's different. You have the ones that I gave you in the white paper form that you can choose to use if you choose to do this particular lesson. And I got the short end of the stick whenever I got the draw of what we're going to be teaching today. But okay, so once you go through that, you hand out all of the tools that they need, and you talk about being a scientist. And today we're going to find out what our offspring is going to be. You're going to serve 3 roles today. You're going to be a flower, okay? And that's your parent card that is in front of you, the little yellow card. That is the color flower you're going to be. You either have a beautiful red rose or a beautiful white rose. You're either going to be a very tall stemmed plant or a short stemmed plant. You're either going to have dark green leaves or light green leaves, and we're going to determine what our offspring, our child, is going to be based on this activity. So first, you're a flower. Second, you're a scientist, and your scientist is your plant key. You're going to use this orange piece of paper to determine your offspring. And thirdly is the fun part of the day. We're going to get up and move, and we're going to be a flying insect. And you can pick which one you want to. You can be a beautiful butterfly. Miss Sonia may choose to be a butterfly. Or you can be a honeybee. Kurt may be a honeybee. Or you can be like Miss Rebecca, and I'm a wasp. Okay, so they all giggle. But I want you to take a pipe cleaner. And we talk about pollen. Around the room you have 8 other flowers. Y'all see them?
Yep.
They're cups, and these cups are going to be our flowers. They have something real sparkly in them, and it's glitter, but we're going to say that it's pollen. Why do you think pollen's important to a color or the reproduction of a flower? Anybody know? Flowers cannot bloom without pollen. Many different species cannot. So we're going to pollinate ourselves, which are our parent cards, but we're going to be a bee. One activity I did, I let somebody go around the room, they got glitter and then put it on it, and they pollinated another thing. Don't do that. They do not do that one. Another class did that, and then we had glitter everywhere. You are in your own space, okay? But you're going to make your leg of your bee out of this pipe cleaner. So you're going to make it into a little L. And the reason we choose pipe cleaners is because this is very similar to a bee, a butterfly, a hornet, a wasp that you may be, and because it has hair on it. And the bee's legs have hair on it for a reason, and the only reason is to pick up pollen. And it picks up pollen and it carries it when it lights from one flower, and it lights into another flower to pick up nectar and protein-rich pollen that is there. It's going to leave some pollen from another plant there. Therefore, the pollination cross is made, and the offspring, we will get to find out what our offspring is going to be. So everybody stand up. You're going to choose one flower. 1. Don't cross-pollinate my flowers, because then I have to throw all my glitter away. You go to 1. You have 2 over here. You have 1 in the back there. You have 3 up here. You have 1 at the very front. And each one of those has a different color. It doesn't matter which one you go to. You're going to dip your leg into the glitter very lightly. All you need is 3 pieces of glitter. You're going to come back to your own station, and you're going to tap that off on your orange piece of paper. Okay? And now we're going to be scientists. So our bee excursion, or butterfly excursion, is over.
I'm a buzzard.
You're a buzzard. Buzzards don't carry glitter or pollen. Something else, though, that can pollinate, if we're not a bee, what else in our environment helps pollinate crops and things? Y'all know? Wind. Or the power of wind can do that. So now we have our glitter, which is our pollen, that is on our scientist key, and we have our other flower, which is our parent card. Now we're only going to look at, you have 6 different colors that you could possibly look at. We're going to look at our dominant genes versus our recessive genes, okay? Dominant genes in our first color is red, and our recessive gene is going to represent by gold, okay? And then we're going to determine if we have a bright red flower, our offspring is going to be, or if it's going to be white, okay? So you're going to look at only 2 colors, guys, only 2, and that is red or gold glitter, or red or gold is your first parent card. So in your very first color under your, it says parent 1, you'll either have red or gold. Raise your hand if it's red. It doesn't matter what pollinates you, those of you that have red, your offspring is going to be red. It's going to, because that's the dominant gene. Okay? It doesn't matter if you got red glitter, if you've got gold glitter. Your offspring, because that dominance one is there. Well, remember when we talked about dominance is always visible. It's something you always see, so it's going to turn out red. Now, what if who in here has gold as their first card, their first color? You guys have to delve a little bit deeper, because that's your recessive gene that is there. You're a white flower already as a parent, and we've got to figure out what your offspring is going to be. So you use your key. This one just has to be yellow, but it's same as yours is orange. If you have... So you'll see, and you'll tell them, the very first column is your parent card, the second column is the color of your glitter, and then the third column is the offspring color of what your child of the flower is going to look like. So gold, and if you have red glitter, and then you match up, you're still going to have a red flower. Only when we have our 2 recessive genes that come to match up together, when you have a gold parent and a gold glitter, it turns into be a white flower. Guys, this is the most confusing part of the entire lesson for 5th graders. And I spend 7 or 8 minutes just on this first color. By the time they get through, find out if they're red or white. Okay, the offspring is going to be red or white. Then it's clicking with them. But it takes, don't be frustrated if they're thinking, oh, I need help, because we walk around the room and we say, okay, let's look. Let me see, you have a red parent card, so you're red. Look at there, you have red glitter. You see that? Red and red equals red petals. And then you'll go and you'll say, okay, you have a gold card, but you have red glitter. Red, remember, red is dominant, so it's going to end up red. So you may have to go around the room and help them. If you have a teacher in the classroom, that works beautifully, because they're going around the room with you to help those. And you'll always have some student that wants to help another one that has got it. Automatically has got it right off the bat, and they can go around the room and help. But once you get that first one done, then what normally I say, this is just a clue to see if they caught it or not. Okay, now we're going to go on to our other 2 colors. Because now that we know that we're either red or white petals, we've got to tell if we're going to be a tall flower or if we're going to be a short flower. So if we're going to be a tall flower, our dominant trait is blue. So if you have any blue combination, either blue glitter or blue parent card, you're going to be tall. But if you have silver, you're short. So who in here is tall? Raise your hand.
I'm a tulip.
You're and then you go, so you know you're tall. Are y'all catching it? You see it? And only if you don't see it. If you're silver and silver makes short stem. That's the only way, because you have You have blue. You're only looking at blue.
Oh.
Blue and silver, and you have silver glitter. So you have a blue card, silver glitter equals a tall stem. Okay, very good. This is my beautiful fifth grader. It's in the room.
That's the brilliant one that figured out all the colors.
This is what happens. They're like, but I have red and I have pink and I have. We're only looking at two colors though
It's
right
what-
now.
it's what's
We're
beside
only doing one trait. Remember how
I never
Miss
said
Rebecca
to go to
has
silver.
brown hair and I have a darker skin tone and I have brown eyes. Those are all three different traits. We're looking at three different traits of a flower. So each one is made up differently. I may have blue eyes. That's a recessive trait in a human being. So the only way that I could have had a blue-eyed person, like my mother's blue-eyed, and she's blonde hair. If my husband happened to have blue eyes, my offspring could have very well easily been a blue-eyed little boy, even though all of them are brown-eyed and brown hair except Stetson, he's got blue eyes. But it's in my genetic makeup. It's hidden because it's not visible. That's what recessive is. It's not visible. It's the weaker gene. And so that's why but you're tall. So you see, you match them up. And that's the most confusing thing for fifth graders. Some people have done this and matched it up a little bit differently. If you have an hour, it works much better in an hour than it does 30 minutes. Because this can be, depending on the knowledge level in your class, while you're teaching it, some of them will catch it right on and you've got 5 more minutes to talk about why Johnny looks the way he does or whatever. But some of them don't. And most of them will say, but I've got 4 colors, or and they shouldn't have 4 colors. They only should have 3 colors of glitter, and they should only have 3 colors on their parent card. And then they determine if they have dark green or light green leaves. And those colors are all we're going to look at is green and pink. This is where it used to say magenta, remember? And I thought they do not know what magenta is. Can you tell now why it would be very difficult if I've left magenta in there? They don't know what magenta is. Some of the girls that are in style with, or in tune with style may know what magenta is, but little boys do not know what magenta is. Yeah, Blue's Clues. There's a magenta. Yeah, but I just changed those colors so that green and pink. And you can pick any kind of glitter, any color that you would like, but it does tell you how to make these makeup. Every one of these flowers are different. And it only has either gold or red. Has a combination of either blue or silver, and it tells you in the lesson that's on there, it tells you how to put the glitter in the box and which colors you have in there. But if you change one of the colors on the key, you got to change it on the color that's in the glitter. So, because it's not going to match up for you. So that's another note you need to make sure that you do. Once all that is done, and you found out this is how inherited traits, or how traits are passed down from generation to generation, that opens lots of windows for lots of conversation, and lots of little boys will be saying so and so, well, my sister looks totally different than me, and then that opens more opportunities for you to educate them on recessive genes and how recessive genes can skip a generation. And one of the things that I used, because my great-grandmother is Native American, I use my brother. Jack is 40. He's the baby of the family, and he would love more than anything to have facial hair and chest hair. But Native Americans, that is not a trait in Native Americans. They do not have chest hair. Leg hair, they do not have hair, and besides on their head. And so I get to use that. He would love to have facial hair. My dad, though, can grow a full beard. So it's a trait that skipped a generation or two and came out in Jack and my brother, and he's not able, has no facial hair.
Well,
It's
that
kind
must
of
be
neat.
nice.
Wouldn't it be neat? You have to shave.
No shaving.
But it's a trait in Native Americans. And I try not to pick on young people in the classroom.
Right.
Because unless you know them, you don't know their genetic makeup. That's why I try to use me, or I use Miss Susan. Miss Susan is blonde hair that's with me. She's in the class. A lot of times she's in another classroom while I'm in there. But if she's in there with me, I'll say, now Miss Susan's not a natural blonde, okay? I know me, so we can't look at her hair. But we have a relationship, and that kind of gets you to understand what are inherited natural traits, and we don't go by the color that we really want our hair to be. Because they'll pick that up too, because so-and-so dyed their hair with Kool-Aid or whatever. But anyway, do y'all have questions? You have tweaks on it that those of you that have done this that may be easier that I have not taught on or gone over. This is a lesson that teachers won't, because it's difficult to teach in a classroom, but it's a question that is on the CRCT. When I have, sometimes my 4-Hers, my Chattooga County kids only go to school 4 days a week, because they go from 7:40 to 3:40 every day. So on Trine City School System go 5 days. And I take, usually one of my senior 4-Hers go with me when I teach 5th grade at Trine, so they can use that. And one of them is Matthew Pace. He's graduated. I hate I'm going to lose him. But he always gets into the bull dynamics of it and talks about how you want a bull as far as sets the trait of the offspring that the cows are going to throw. And that's neat. It brings up a whole different area. So he uses animals. It's just instead of using humans or instead of using flowers, he gets that conversation talked about. And the more that you can relate it back to real life, something that they're familiar with, the more it's going to sink in. Flowers may not sink in with everybody. It's the safest thing to teach about. I'll tell you that. But it's the safest, but you can, if you're comfortable with the topic, then you can open the window or open the doors and talk about animals and traits. Some people got into dogs. I mean, it was somebody in the classroom until I live in a very rural area near Alabama, but they got into chicken fighting. And what's what they want in a chicken to be fight. I said, okay, we're going somewhere else with it. But those are on those classes that are an hour long. But they have a lot of fun with it, and it does click with them after they go through matching these things up. So, I hope it was enjoyable. Hope you picked up some different tweaks on it, and hopefully I'll try to lure you away of some things not to do in this class.